Hi, welcome to this video. In today's video, we would like to talk about a coding exercise. I think that it's better to learn the concepts when they're applied in exercises so we can feel the practicality of these coding exercises and the concepts that we're going to learn. Here, we would like to create a simple line plot for the function y equals x to the power of 2 for x values from -10 to 10. And we would like to have a customized line color of red. Okay. Now for plotting in Python, we need to import Matplotlib library. So in order to import Matplotlib library, we are going to simply call it here. And also for numerical operations, we need to have the NumPy library. Therefore, we are also importing the NumPy library here. Now we mentioned that we would like to have for x values from from -10 to 10. In order to generate the values for x, we are going to use the np line space function. This function requires 3 arguments, okay? So the starting point, the ending point, and the number of points that we would like to be evenly spaced, okay? Now this np line space function is going to have the start point to be -10, the stop point to be 10, or let's say the ending point, and then it is going to generate an array of evenly spaced numbers. So this is the third argument. So when we are having, for example, 100 points, it is smoothly having the curve when plotted. But if we are having lower number of, for example, points in our array, we are going to see that it's not very much smooth. We're going to test it now in a few minutes. So this np.line space function, we used it to generate the x values for us, the starting point, the ending point, and the number of points in that array, and it is equal to our x. Now we need to have the y function here because y equals x to the power of 2. We need to have it in order to compute y value for the function. For this function, we're going to have y equals x to the power of 2. So when we want to have the power in Python, when we want to have a number to the power of 2, for example, we are going to use star star. Okay. For example, 2 star star 2 means that 2 to the power of 2. Okay. It means that 2 multiplied by 2. So when we want to show the power in Python, we are going to use star star. So 2 to the power of 2 means 2 multiplied by 2, so their output will be 4. This was just an example, but in order to compute the value of y for this function, we first need to implement it. So it is the implementation of y equals x to the power of 2. Now we generated the x values, and we also computed the y values. Now it's the time for plotting our plot. Now, in order to plot our plot, we need to use the plt.plot function. This is a function that we can use for a custom color because we mentioned that here we would like to have a customized line color of red. So here, this function plt.plot is used to create a two-dimensional plot in Matplotlib library. Okay. Basically here, x is the horizontal values and y is the vertical values, and we are simply saying color equals red. So we would like to have the color red. Now the plot, we are creating the plot. We use the plt.plot function to customize the color and create the x and y axis. Now we need to label the axis and also the title. In order to label, we can have the plt.x label. So we are going to have the horizontal label, which is x-axis, and then plt.y label, we can call it y-axis, and the title of our figure, we want it to be this. This is the title parabola, and this is the title of our plot, and then we use the plt.show to show what has been done. So when I run this code, first of all, we see that the plot is in red. So let me put this a bit lower. So here we see that the plot is firstly red because we chose it to be red here. Okay. If I want a plot that is blue, I can have blue here, for example. When I run the code one more time, we see that the color has changed. So we can choose the color quite easily. Then we see that the title is parabola. This is exactly what we chose here. We can change to something else, for example, function. Now, if I run the code, we see function is the title of the figure here. Then we are having the x-axis and y-axis. We can change its title as well. For example, we can say it's time and it's not x-axis. For example, if the unit is time, we can write it down time here. We can change this one accordingly. So it's our choice. So I get back to the x-axis because it's easier to understand here. And this is the two-dimensional line chart that we see here that is shown in color blue. And you see that for values of x, we are having from -10 to 10 that we are having it here. As you see, among all this line, there are 100 points of x values to have a smooth shape. But if I change this 50 to this 100 to 50, let us compare. So you see that now the figure is a bit less smooth, but it's not very much identical. So if I put to number 10, for example, we should be able to see the difference. As you see it here, yeah, it's not that much smooth. You see some parts are sharper. You see it here? So it's not a good idea to have lower number of points. It's better to have sufficient number of points in order to keep the shape very smooth. So this was how actually we could create a line plot here and illustrate it simply here. And we could have, for example, y equals to x to the power of 3. So if I run the code, we see that the shape changes because now we are changing the y function. The y function was y equals x to the power of 2. Now it's x to the power of 3. So the shape is changing. But what if I do, for example, for x to the power of 4, for example? When I run the code, we see somehow the similar shape, but this part, the down part, is a bit more flat as compared to x to the power of 2. So you see the flat here, but when I have x to the power of 2, for example, we see that it's not that flat, it's more curvy in the downside. So let me also put the color red here and I run the code one more time. So this is how actually we can have a simple line plot for function y equals x to the power of 2 for values of x between -10 and 10, and we had a red color line. So in this video, first of all, we learned that if we want to use the Matplotlib library and do some numerical operations, it's good to import the Matplotlib library and NumPy. Then the second lesson of this video was that we learned about np.linspace, so we can generate values for x between the start point and end point and the number of points that we want to have in our array that are generated with evenly spaced. Also, we learned how to implement the function y equals x to the power of 2. So to the power of 2, we learned that if we want to do it in Python, we need to have star star, okay? Then we learned that in order to have our line plot in two-dimensional, we can have the plt.plot function and then simply contain the horizontal values and the vertical values and also choose the color. And this is how we can label the horizontal axis, vertical axis, and also the title of the plot. This is how we can label it. And finally, to display the plot, to display the plot, sorry, we can use plt.show function to have the figure being shown here. Thank you for watching.